Yeah, we don't do it because it's easy. We do it because we thought it would be easy.
Yeah. If we knew going into it, like, no, thank you.
Our card in this, yeah. So I think like underestimating like getting product market fit, underestimating building commercial.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things outside of the technical founders know-how that I think is very challenging and also causes equal levels of risk as the technical risk. And so I think all of those things you're learning along the way, and anytime you're learning, it feels painful, but so you feel a lot of pain along the way, I think, too.
Well, Jamie, thanks for coming on. See, I went informal in the end. What's the verdict on the coconut mango boom?
It's good. It's a lot. It's good.
We won't tell you the calorie numbers.
Yeah, good.
Don't let everyone lunch. Yeah, when the first time someone told me, I'm like, why did you tell me that?
Yeah.
Like, I was happy here.
Ignorance is blessed.
Yeah. All that mango sugar is bliss too. So love to start with some of your background on kind of what made you want to start a company in the first place, why loading up nanoparticles, like what was the backstory there?
I'm a technical founder like yourself, so studied engineering physics at UBC and then did a Ph.D. in genetics. During my engineering degree, did lots of co-ops and internships and got the entrepreneur bug then, working at like photonic crystal, wireless, various physics-oriented companies, and switched into health. And during my PhD was in Seattle at the Institute for Systems Biology and also worked at a VC during that time. And so I always had the entrepreneurial bug, never had any intention of academics, being a professor or anything. And so when I got out of my PhD, I was gunning to find something cool and interesting to do. And then met my co-founding team, which was of Precision NanoSystems, which was Dr. Peter Cullis, who's sage in lipid nanoparticle-delivery systems.
Yep.
Another professor, Carl Hansen, microfluidics, and my entrepreneur co-founder, Ewan Ramsey. And yeah, we invented a technology to making nanoparticles easier and better, and thought it was worthwhile to try to make a go of it.
Was there like a particular moment you remember that was the go, no-go to do it? Because I think a lot of people fantasize about this stuff, but then they don't actually do it.
We started the company super early, I would say. The technology was very raw, but I think it was seeing, when Peter in particular, who had been in the field for 30 plus years at the time, said this is going to make a huge impact in manufacturing. We're like, okay, let's try to make it happen. And then won some non-dilutive grants to get going. And then, just started building from there. And then you get a couple of years into it and you have to make it work at that point.
So when did you guys start? And like, what's like the Cliff Notes version of the trajectory from there? Because we'll dive into various parts along the way.
So founded in 2010.
Okay.
Built it for 11 years and sold it in 2021. In the first 2 to 3 years, we were in the labs building technology and with some early customers, early partners with that, developing our technology. So technology is a microfluidic-based approach to manufacturing nanoparticles. And so I spent a lot of time doing that, and then raised some angel investment along the way. I think we did our Series A financing not until like 5 years into the company's life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How big was they?
What did we raise? We raised just under, it was like between 15 and 20 million, I think. Yeah.
And then how many rounds did you guys do before the Danaher exit?
Yeah, we raised a total of 26 million all in. So we did some smaller B's and C's, just internal to keep growing, keep accelerating. And and then by the time we sold, we were profitable.
Very nice. Everyone's dream.
Yeah.
So going into all this, what did you underestimate about what it would be like to start and run a company?
Actually, can we stop for a second? Yeah. Did I mention my co-founder, Ewan?
At the start you did.
I did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure he gets a lot of credit. Yeah. Okay, cool. You want to start again with the question?
So getting into all this, what did you underestimate going in? Like what was different from what you expected when pursuing that dream of a startup?
Probably might be a similar story for a lot of people that start companies right out of their PhDs or their schooling is like, I don't know if you have expectations. So I think underestimated probably everything at that point in time, right?
Yeah, the expectation is that it's easy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You're like, I went to that talk. They said it's all rainbows and unicorns the whole way. How hard can it be?
Yeah, we don't do it because it's easy. We do it because we thought it would be easy.
Yeah. If we knew going into it, like, no, thank you.
How hard it is. Yeah. So I think like underestimating like getting product market fit, underestimating building commercial.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things outside of the technical founders know-how that I think is very challenging and, also causes, equal levels of risk as the technical risk. And so I think all of those things you're learning along the way. And, anytime you're learning, it feels painful, but so you feel a lot of pain along the way, I think, too.
Well, one thing I like that you said earlier was the, after a few years in, we had to make it work. Do you want to expand on that? Because I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, I think you, especially as a young person, right? You're trying to build your career. You have high hopes for what that will be, right? And you make a decision to do something that has could be great or could be zero. And so I think as you look at your colleagues that have, cool jobs doing this or that, whatever they're doing, you kind of feel a bit lonely and isolated, I think, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Until it starts to become something that is, getting traction, something you're proud of. So I think a few years in, once you're doing it, you start to realize that, making a huge bet on this, the risk isn't that big in the sense that you're always going to eat and put food on the table, but your sort of pressure you have on yourself makes it feel like it's a life and death type experience. So we have to make this work for hell or high water.
Yeah, for sure. Because I also think there are like all those times where your friends are like, oh yeah, let's go just get drinks on Tuesday. I'm like, no, I have this grant to write. Like, I'd love to, but
to work hard.
I'll be up to till 2 a.m. just like you, but for very different reasons.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, no, I could.
So it's a lot of work, but it's rewarding and it's exciting and it's fun and it's stressful. It's good.
Yeah. Well, how did you view the role of the board throughout this? Because I think on paper, people hear one thing about what with boards, they're going to provide strategic insight and blah, blah, blah. But then I think the reality of what our lives are like with investor board members, non-investor board members, and how those dynamics sometimes are super helpful, other times can be problematic. Like, what was your experience with that side of things?
I think a few things there. And as you go through the experience and you start to understand how things work, you learn a lot. And for me, I think one of where I was naive was I assumed that because these people had tons of experience, had a tremendous amount to offer, that the board would be more actively in helping to drive what the company should do or even the execution, right? And then I remember vividly kind of being frustrated and talking to a mentor of mine, and they're like, well, no, boards don't run companies. Management runs companies, right? And so I think that was a good learning where I was like, okay, they're there to help guide and support and, obviously with governance, but it's up to us to really make everything happen. And I think that was a really healthy realization for me.
A lot of times they might just be indecisive and they're kind of like, yeah, go do the thing. If it goes well, we'll all be excited together. And if it doesn't go well, we'll say, you screwed up, you child.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's the role of the CEO and the executive team to figure out the direction and where to go. And, we're in the weeds doing the work, and we have the ear to the ground, the ear to the street, so we should know where to go.
And how do you feel about the dynamics with, let's say, investor board members? Because I think there's an element of like, on the one hand, they're trying to be helpful, et cetera. On the other hand, you got to be selling to them for the next round.
Yeah.
So it's never truly, hey, here's all the skeletons in every closet.
Right.
So how do you feel about that part?
I think I'm always very upfront and honest with the board in that way. Like, I think the, no surprises is a very good way to approach them. But I do think in terms of dynamic, one thing that comes out, seems to come out in a lot of boards, is with, say, when you have your VC investors or what have you, is that they have a fiduciary responsibility to their companies, which isn't your company. And I do see that the influence can be, or the discussions, or what's happening can be driven probably too much by solving for their needs rather than the company's needs. And they'll do their best for the fiduciary duty of the company or what have you, but it's not as idealistic, I think, in that way, or as it could be sometimes. Probably just the reality of it, but I think then you'll see it, and you'll see like even in a single board, different investors may have different needs, be it time horizons, amount of money they want to put to work, sensitive solution, all these things, right? And they can be in conflict, and you're sitting around trying to solve for things outside of making the company successful.
Yeah, because I think the board stuff's interesting because I feel like it's so mysterious to anyone not in that room all the time. And I think some overestimate how impactful it is and some underestimate. And generally they'll get it wrong as to like why it impacted.
Yeah, and I think like everyone around the table should be a really smart, caring person, I think. And I found that there are different superpowers come out at different times. So we had a couple operators on my Precision board that were excellent for helping to think through strategy and tactics, and doing things. The VCs can help with some networking, but also really came to shine during those things that they'd be obviously good at. So helping maybe with the financing. For us, the exit was really like a real strong value add, things like that.
So one question on geography, like you guys built this all out in Canada. What do you feel like were the pros and cons in doing it there?
Sure, yeah. So we're a Vancouver-based company. So the pros of that was Vancouver is one of the world leading places for lipid nanoparticle technologies. Real critical mass of companies there. So that was great for talent. Great for people coming through. Great for brand almost awareness being tied to someone like Peter Cullis for this type of technology. Also, I would say there's a lot of really good scientists there. Really, really good to get talent, and the talent wars probably aren't as vigorous as they are here in Boston. So we had good retention and things like that. And we had employees here as well, all over the States too. So you could see the different retention in different areas and so on. I think some of the cons with it, at least for us at the time, probably still is the same, where there's definitely less VC, less funding. So you come down to the US to get your funds. There are good VCs in Canada that are making a big impact, but they're just less of them. So in your matchmaking process, you need to come and kiss more frogs, come to the US.
Find your prince. American prince.
Of course. But for us, like it caused us to kind of harden the company a lot more before we started to get capital to scale. So I think we had sold 50 instruments before we raised our Series A. So we had to really prove ourselves. Which I think was it was tough, but it made the company stronger.
What do you think, and from your perspective, was defining the difference of like, I'm sure you were looking at other companies and founding teams, you're like, their stuff is nowhere near, as unbiased as you could be, their stuff is nowhere nearly as good as ours, and they just got a X $1 million check. What the hell?
It wouldn't be competitive companies per se, but it would definitely be other life science tools companies that had raised a ton of money easily in the Bay Area or where have you. And you still see it now. Like you see, and I think it's a challenge for these types of companies. If you do take too much money, you can put on the gas to scale, but it doesn't happen, and then you start to get in trouble.
And related to the scaling, I mean, there's always tension between improving the product versus just selling it harder. How did your view evolve on those things? Like as far as how often you'd be like, all right, we just got to make the product that much better. Like, no, we just got to try harder. It's
a great question. I think once you have a product and you launch it, then a big part of your mind share is like, how do we sell the hell out of this thing, right? And how do we do what we need to do to convey the value to the customer and build awareness around it and all those facets. And then in the background, like every customer feedback, you're thinking about, okay, how does this fit into the improvements of it?
Yeah.
And then do a very conscious launch of those improvements and say a new design, new product update, what have you. But you learn so much from your customer by being out there on the pitch with them that there's just so much value in selling what you have, and you need to make money. That's what these companies need to do to be successful. And you're as good as your last quarter kind of attitude. So you do need to push that commercial team, and you just learn and grow as a team so much.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, at least technical founders, will probably fall in this trap of like, oh, my thing is, if I make it great enough, it'll sell itself.
Yeah.
And then they realize like, no, you got to go still do that, no matter how great it is. Are there any things in particular that you changed a lot about your approach to commercial execution over time? Like how you started off with the first product you were pushing versus the last one?
Yeah. I think when you start off, you're founder selling the product, and my co-founder, Ewan, he was, I was the engineer, he was the pharmaceutical scientist, so he was the customer. So he really had a good sense of what the customer thought, how they thought, and what they needed, and so it really helped to shape that. So you start off selling it as the entrepreneur, but then you need to scale by transferring that magic to your sales team. So a lot of the challenge and the things that need to happen is figuring out how to do that transfer.
Yeah.
How do you have the founder in the room without having the founder in the room?
How do you clone parts of you and brain
into these? And so it's building materials, it's training, it's picking the right people, it's getting the right team of sales, the right balance of science versus selling excellence.
And do you guys feel like you were, or maybe it shifted over time actually, but do you guys feel like you were selling into a zone where it was more category creating? It's like, oh, you don't normally do this, but you should because X, versus, oh, everyone wants a machine that can make them nanoparticles. Is your box better than the other box?
Yeah. So when we started the company for lipid nanoparticles, it was a mix of small molecules, so chemotherapeutic reformulations.
Yeah.
And those are liposomal type products. And then what I was really excited about with my systems genetics background was the RNA space, right? Mm-hmm. But when we started, it was only siRNA. And so then the field went from siRNA to mRNA, CRISPR, all these different modalities. So as that happened, then you have this totally new market coming out. And so people wanted to get into the space, but making a nanoparticle was very daunting and very hard.
Yeah.
You had people that were in the field for a long period of time and were like, no, we can already do it with our mixing apparatus that we've homebrewed.
Yeah.
But then a large proportion of people were like, okay, I can't go that slowly. I need to go faster. And so used our system to do that well. So it would definitely making a new market, I think was the dominant for us.
Like for you and as technical founders, what were some of the hardest concepts to learn on the business side, let's say, or would go most against your background personality?
I think building channel was hard. I think that was really, really hard. Running a team, I think those are things that you need to learn as you go as a technical founder. By the end, we had over 200 employees. So running that size of organization isn't something you learn in your Ph.D. or even like running the 10-person team and being a good leader isn't part of your training, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of recognize that you don't know those things and try to be better. But
were there any like big things you felt like you got wrong early on, and then you're like, that was a near miss just because I was new to this?
Yeah, I think our biggest near-death experience, I suppose, was when we started to scale our channel and scale our sales team. And so we had everyone wants to go fast. We want to go fast. Investors want to go fast. So then you hire your professional to come and lead the sales team and take things over. And we had sold, a fair number of systems by then, but that didn't go very well. I think it was just probably the wrong fit of person. The person was excellent at what they did, but not at what we did. And then being a first-time CEO, I think he kind of let that linger for too long.
Yep.
And then things start to go badly. And so we had to remedy it by changing that leadership, getting the founders back. Give Ewan lots of credit for this to rebuild the sales team and then reshape the messaging to customers and so on.
Yeah. And Ewan, if you're listening, Jamie's been very concerned to make sure you get enough credit off camera. So, and I can totally relate to that, by the way, because I feel like one of the promises I was trying to make myself second time around was, I know I was way too slow to move on things where like the person was nice, but I knew this was not going to work out well.
Totally. And
it dragged out for by far longer than it needed to the detriment of themselves and others around them and everything.
Yeah.
And so this time I'm like, all right, fine. If you know, just deal with it, even though you hate it.
Yeah, and it's best for both people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It just makes the inevitable happen faster. And I'm sure you guys face the platform versus therapeutic debate.
Yeah.
So how did you go about that? I mean, the sexy thing to do, as we all know, is to do therapeutics. So why would you be a lowly tool person?
Yeah, for sure. So we decided early on that we right away.
Yeah.
We wanted to be a product company, a tools company, and never really wavered from that. We had developed technology, lipid technology for licensing, so kind of like a drug delivery part of what we did. Yeah, I think that was never in question for us, and it was a great experience. Like building products, your customers are using it, right? You get to see that iteration. You can iterate with them. I think by the time I left, we had shipped over 1,000 machines, working with hundreds of biopharmaceutical companies. When I was recruiting drug developers to be on our team, we're like, okay, you can either make one drug or you can work with hundreds of our clients and make tons of really cutting edge medicines. So it was both satisfying from a pharmaceutical impact sense, but also from working directly with your customer sense.
Was there at any point a significant investor and or strategic pressure to go down the route of therapeutics?
No, because we had kind of picked the people, like aligned everything, investors.
Yeah.
I would say when we were raising our Series A, the number of investors that would do tools per se was much smaller than therapeutics. So you have to go and beat the bushes to find those people that liked that business model. It's probably different today, but
in hindsight, when you think about business model, like some people will try to do royalties and licenses, others will just sell the box and the consumables. How did you view the pros and cons of that at the time? Because I think it's like speaking for ourselves with our history, like it was very tempting to think that, oh yeah, Pfizer's totally going to pay me $1 million+ annual and give a few percentage points on their drug because obviously they did this other deal. So naturally they would give us the same deal. Like that can be very tempting to people. How did you guys think about it back then? And what is your retrospective analysis on it?
We came out with the technology. It made a huge impact on people. So the same thing where you're like, okay, we're creating a ton of value. How do we maximize that value? And that's like align it with the, per unit economics with a royalty or something. The manufacturing technology, we had manufacturing technology services and lipid delivery technologies, were 3 different business models in the end. For the manufacturing technology was an instrument and consumable model. We tried to make that a royalty model at the start, and that we had some success convincing people, but it was extremely hard, and I think it caused us meaningful time. Because, and the lesson there is that invent on the technology, do a business model that the customer is comfortable with. Yeah. And you can extract similar economics through a cost of goods versus a royalty, right? Percentage, if you do the math and figure it out without calling it one or the other. And people are just more comfortable with that. For the drug delivery technology, on the other hand, we're able to do license of, royalty-bearing licenses. Yeah. And that's just because that's what that field is used to. So I think really matching that economics with what the customer expects is a good way to go about things.
Yeah. And maybe stuff like that is a great example of like, if you're a technical founder, you're constantly thinking of how do I make my product better so they'll give me more royalty versus are more likely to give me a royalty versus being like, you know what? If I actually do the math on the like cost I'm selling it at versus the cost of goods to me, that delta on the margin is functionally a royalty. I just shouldn't call it that. And let it roll. And then in this other zone where they are comfortable with it, I'll do it their way.
Yeah, exactly.
And like apply their analytics and problem solving to the commercial side. So I guess getting into some of the highs and lows for you guys, was there one or two moments where you felt like you kind of pulled a victory from the jaws of defeats that you're like, man, that was a really close call?
Yeah, I think the sales thing, the channel one, that's the one that stands out. There's other times where we launched one of our more complicated instruments and it did not launch well. And so we were sending people out on red eyes to Cambridge here to fix things, and some customers gave us a lot of slack on instruments that weren't probably didn't perform as well as they should have right away. But just you deal with the pressure and you handle it, and you work really hard to make your customers successful.
Is there something you felt like you guys learned to do to make the customers more forgiving and collaborative? Let's say when you're like, cute new toys, they break half the time. Like what makes them tolerate that and like it?
Yeah, so our flagship product, the benchtop, became the Ignite. Super stable instrument, always worked and super easy to use. So it's like making Nespresso, Nespresso for nanoparticle drug delivery. And so running the machine was easy. But making a drug delivery system that was good and worked and potentially innovative was extremely hard. We built the expertise to do that, to make those drug delivery systems. And what we decided to do is to support our customers better, we set up a service. And so we would run a service that the customers could access. We would help develop the protocols with them and then send it back to them with and they have the instrument, but all the ways and methods to do that. And then we found that not only were we having to be experts in our one unit operation, but the full set of operations across the full process. And so we set up analyticals, we set up all the upstream and downstream processing to do that, and that still exists in the company today.
Going back to the highs and lows, were there moments that you, in retrospect, you're like, man, I wish I did that, but I didn't, and I wonder what would have happened if we did?
I think the big one for me would be accelerating the manufacture of our large scale manufacturing. So our business. Manufacturing business, benchtop equipment, you make that preclinical, you start to translate that through into clinical development. Once you have a clinical development, you need a GMP ready machine that's probably at larger volumes and so on. It took us, I think we got developing some other systems in between there, whereas I think if we spent more time on the ultimate GMP manufacturing platform, we probably would have had more success getting clients on that side faster.
Because this was also around the time of like COVID and the RNA vaccines really taking off.
When COVID vaccines took off, we weren't quite ready as we could have been, I think. We did work with some companies on their vaccines and so on. But at the scales that we were talking about was just very different.
And getting towards the end of the story, like the acquisition with Danaher, like how did that come about? What made you decide to sell versus keep doing this for another many years?
Forever. We were like 10, getting on 11 years into it, and it was 2020 when we started making those decisions, kind of in the thick of COVID, and we were deciding, do we either go public? We're kind of at that stage where it's like, okay, we got to start thinking about liquidity and we got to start thinking about, scaling further, or do we partner with the strategic? We were looking at all options from IPO to SPAC, all these things, right, that were happening at that time. And
no more SPACs now.
How can you choose certain doors over other doors? For sure. We decided the best thing for the company, and where we were was probably a little bit too small to go public. Would have taken another 18, 24 months of growth, I think, other than like going out super early. And so we're like, okay, I think we just collectively, management and board, look to do a strategic sale of the company and find a great partner. Went through a very competitive auction process. We knew Danaher, we knew all the players going into this, but we're really ecstatic to have Cytiva and Danaher as the partner for the company. Really great company.
After that, how did you think about what you would want to do next? Like gotten to that end point, you're like, all right, this whole time I wanted to start something and make it happen, and now now that part's done.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I stayed on for 2 years to make sure everything's stuck in Vancouver, and it's now like a center of excellence for Cytiva, which is awesome. And so, but it's interesting because throughout your life, you know, as a person like myself, probably like yourself, like you're pretty driven.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to start a company, and then I'm going to grow it, and I'm going to someday exit. And then at the end, you're like, oh, okay.
What do I do now?
So I took a year off, full year off, where I was like, you know, you see the picture of like 2 pairs of shoes and just smoke. Kind of like you were just kind of a wet noodle at the end of 13 years of all that. And so, and then at the end of that, I was like, okay, I'm missing a piece of me. I want to get back into doing science and technology and entrepreneurship. So I'm helping some companies start a new project, and
your wife's like, thank God she's out of the house again.
So working at home, like home office, so still probably a little bit too much of there.
All right, and then last question: if you had a magic wand you could wave to change anything you want about the industry, what would you change?
I think maybe just kind of globally looking at capital. I think it would be great if we could figure out as an industry, how do we get more capital into solving these big problems. And I think it's a very small share of the flows of capital that will go into, say, innovation, right? And true innovation, right? So we're out here all trying to make new medicines, health, you know, other deep tech similarly. So how do we tell our stories better? How do we be more reliable, whatever it is that capital needs to come in, such that a bigger percentage of the total capital pool is for making these great changes in society for the betterment of humans.
Yeah, your answer is too similar to mine, because I'm basically like, I think we have a communication problem where people don't understand what we do, and that's why the average public's interest doesn't swing in our direction. Instead, they're like, ooh, what's the latest app?
Whatever.
Yeah, because they can relate to that and it's more comprehensible. Whereas like ultimately everyone cares about healthcare and having better medicines and all that, but we as an industry make it so hard for them to understand what the hell we're talking about.
Right.
Like, all right, nerds, you go over there. Back to my Candy Crush here, or whatever it is people do now.
AI Candy Crush.
Yeah, AI Candy Crush. Like, Gemini, how do we get more money into our zone? All right, cool. Well, on that note, thanks again for doing this, and we'll post it soon.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.